Dr. Maya Voss had exactly three things going for her: a PhD in xenoanthropology that nobody understood, a talent for blending into backgrounds, and the dubious honor of being the only human stupid enough to volunteer for the galaxy's most boring assignment. She was supposed to observe the first ever intergalactic peace summit aboard the luxury cruise liner Cosmic Serenity, and file reports that approximately 7 beings in the entire universe would read. "Observe and document," she muttered, adjusting her position behind a decorative plasma fountain. "Don't interfere. Don't participate. Just watch the pretty aliens play politics and try not to fall asleep." The summit was everything she'd expected: tedious, pompous, and filled with beings who took themselves way too seriously. Admiral Kronk, a Bulgarian who looked like someone had crossed a walrus with a disappointed middle manager, kept gesturing dramatically while explaining his 17-point plan for galactic unity. Ambassador Zilf, a crystalline entity from the Prism sector, responded only in what Maya had dubbed bureaucratic riddle statements so convoluted they could mean anything or nothing. Then there was Captain Rex Bulldozer. Yes, that was actually his name, and no, Maya couldn't figure out if it was meant to be intimidating or if his parents had a twisted sense of humor. The human captain of the Cosmic Serenity spent most of his time trying to impress the alien dignitaries with stories about Earth's legendary military prowess, which mostly involved him making explosion sounds with his mouth. Maya was busy documenting the fascinating mating dance Admiral Kronk performed every time he disagreed with someone. It involved a lot of flipper waving and what she could only describe as aggressive honking when the ship's lights flickered. "That's not supposed to happen," Captain Bulldozer announced with the confidence of someone stating that water is wet. The next flicker was accompanied by an impact that sent Maya's notepad flying. Then another. Then the kind of metallic grinding sound that meant someone was either doing very aggressive ship maintenance or trying to break in. Raiders. Someone screamed, which Maya felt was unnecessarily dramatic. After all, they could have been extremely enthusiastic door-to-door salespeople. The bridge erupted into chaos as various alien species demonstrated their unique approaches to panic. Admiral Kronk began honking at maximum volume while his flippers windmilled frantically. Ambassador Zilf's crystalline form started flashing colors that Maya was pretty sure spelled out curse words in 17 different languages. Captain Bulldozer, to his credit, was actually trying to coordinate a response, though his military experience seemed to consist entirely of watching action movies. Maya pressed herself further behind the plasma fountain, notepad clutched to her chest, and tried to remember if her job description had mentioned anything about hazard pay. The raiders who boarded the Cosmic Serenity were nothing like the chaotic pirates Maya had expected. They moved with military precision, spoke in clipped, efficient sentences, and seemed to know exactly where they were going. Which was weird because if you were going to rob a luxury cruise ship, you'd probably want to hit the jewelry stores or the casino, not head straight for the diplomatic quarters. Maya watched from her hiding spot as the raiders split into precise formations. 3 teams of 4, each with specific objectives, each following patrol patterns that suggested detailed knowledge of the ship's layout. This wasn't opportunistic piracy, this was a planned operation. "Fascinating," she muttered, reaching for her notepad. Classic hierarchical military structure with emphasis on. "Did someone say something about tactics?" Captain Bulldozer's voice boomed from somewhere behind her. Maya spun around to find the captain crouched behind another plasma fountain, his uniform somehow still perfectly pressed despite the ongoing invasion. "What? No, I was just..." "Because I could really use some tactical insight right about now," he continued, apparently deciding that a random xenoanthropologist was the best military advisor available. "These guys know our defensive positions, our response protocols, our supply routes." Maya finished absently, watching another raider team bypass the main armory to head for what she knew was the ship's secondary weapons cache. "They're not here for valuables. They're here for intelligence. Probably military specifications, diplomatic communications, maybe troop movement data." "Exactly. Bulldozer exclaimed, pulling out his communicator. All units, the enemy is targeting intelligence assets. Repeat, they're after our data, not our stuff. Maya stared at him. I didn't say. Brilliant tactical assessment, Bulldozer interrupted. What's their next move? Maya looked at the raider formations again, her anthropological training kicking in despite her better judgment. She'd spent years studying how different cultures approached problem solving, and these raiders were following patterns she recognized. Well, if they're intelligence-focused, they'll want to establish secure extraction points before. An explosion echoed from the direction of the main docking bay. They're cutting off our escape routes, Bulldozer breathed. You called it perfectly. What do we do now? Maya squeaked. I'm just supposed to observe. Too late for that, Bulldozer said, grabbing her arm. You're clearly some kind of strategic genius. The crew needs to hear this. Before Maya could protest, she found herself being dragged onto the bridge, where the remaining officers were frantically trying to coordinate a defense that was falling apart faster than Admiral Kronk's dignity. Listen up, everyone, Bulldozer announced. Dr. Voss here has been analyzing the enemy's tactical approach, and she's identified their primary objectives and likely next moves. Every eye on the bridge turned to Maya, who felt like she'd accidentally walked into the wrong classroom and was about to give a presentation on a subject she'd never studied. I really don't think she started. The good doctor predicted they'd target our intelligence assets and cut off our escape routes, Bulldozer continued, both of which just happened exactly as she said. Admiral Kronk stopped his panicked honking long enough to fix Maya with what she assumed was an impressed stare. Remarkable tactical acumen for an anthropologist. It's not tactical acumen, Maya protested. It's just pattern recognition. I study cultural behaviors, and military organizations are just cultures with weapons. These raiders are following predictable protocols based on their apparent objectives and… Another explosion, this one from the communications array. They're isolating us, someone shouted. Of course they are, Maya said without thinking. Standard siege protocol. Cut communications, block escape routes, establish control of key infrastructure points. Next they'll… The lights went out. Disable primary power systems. She finished in the darkness. When the emergency lighting kicked in, every face on the bridge was staring at Maya with something approaching awe. Dr. Voss, Admiral Kronk said slowly, I believe you may have just become our military advisor. Maya opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. Then opened it again. Then decided that maybe, just maybe, this was going to be a very long day. 3 days later, Maya's miraculous tactical victory aboard the Cosmic Serenity had somehow made it into the Galactic news feeds. The headline on the Intergalactic Tribune read, Mysterious Human Strategist Outmaneuvers Notorious Void Reapers. The subheading was even worse. Ghost of Soul appears from nowhere to save Peace Summit. Ghost of Soul? Maya stared at the holographic display in Admiral Kronk's temporary headquarters. Who the hell is the Ghost of Soul? That would be you, Kronk replied, his walrus-like mustache twitching with what Maya had learned to recognize as amusement. Apparently you appeared out of nowhere, analyzed the enemy with supernatural precision, and vanished back into the shadows after the victory. I was hiding behind a plasma fountain, Maya protested. That's not supernatural. That's called being socially awkward. The press loves a good mystery, Captain Bulldozer added, somehow managing to look proud of himself for discovering her. And you have to admit, your methods are unconventional. Maya looked at the mission briefing Kronk had just handed her. More raids on trade routes, all following similar patterns to the Cosmic Serenity attack. Coordinated, precise, targeting specific assets rather than general mayhem. This is just basic anthropological analysis, she said for the 100th time. I'm looking at behavioral patterns, cultural indicators, organizational structures. It's not magic. Whatever you want to call it, Kronk said. It works. The Galactic Navy is officially requesting your assistance as a tactical consultant. I study alien cultures, Maya said slowly. I write papers with titles like Mating Rituals of the Centaurian Slug People. I am not qualified to. You predicted the Void Reapers' next 3 targets based on their cultural dining preferences. Bulldozer interrupted. Don't ask me to explain it, but it worked. Maya rubbed her temples. That had been an accident. She'd noticed that the raiders only struck during certain galactic time periods, which corresponded to religious fasting cycles for several warrior cultures. It was basic cultural observation, not military genius. Fine, she sighed. But I'm doing this my way. I need cultural databases, historical records, sociological profiles of known raider groups. And I want it on record that I have no idea what I'm doing. 2 weeks and 4 successful tactical predictions later, Maya was beginning to suspect that the universe had a twisted sense of humor. Every time she approached a problem like an anthropological field study, she somehow managed to outthink military commanders with decades of experience. The Void Reapers' leader, Commander Snarl, had become her inadvertent nemesis. He was apparently a Krillian warrior poet who had studied the great military campaigns of 17 different species. His tactical brilliance was legendary, his strategic mind unmatched, his ability to adapt to enemy responses uncanny. And Maya kept beating him by treating his military campaigns like she was studying the migration patterns of space whales. The Krillian honor code requires them to announce their victories through ritual combat displays. She explained to a room full of naval officers who were taking notes like she was revealing the secrets of the universe. So when Snarl hits the Proxima station, he'll stage the attack during their cultural festival to maximize the audience for his demonstration of superiority. And how does that help us? Asked Commander Torres, Kronk's tactical advisor, who clearly resented being upstaged by someone whose previous experience with warfare came from watching nature documentaries. Because Krillian combat displays follow specific ceremonial patterns, Mai replied. He'll attack from the ceremonial direction Galactic North, and his forces will arrange themselves in the traditional honor formation, which leaves their flanks exposed if you know what to look for. 3 days later, when Snarl's attack on Proxima Station was repelled exactly as Maya had predicted, the legend of the Ghost of Sol grew another size. Maya tried to take a vacation. She submitted her resignation. She even attempted to hide in a library on a remote research station. The universe apparently had other plans. Dr. Voss, came Admiral Kronk's voice over the communicator that somehow found her even in the depths of the Rigel VI Archaeological Archive. We have a situation. Maya looked at the stack of dusty anthropological texts she'd been using to hide from her accidentally military career. Then she looked at the holographic display showing another coordinated attack, this one on a major trade hub. Let me guess, she said. It's the Void Reapers again, and they're doing something that makes perfect sense if you understand their cultural context, but looks completely insane to everyone else. Precisely, Kronk replied. How quickly can you get to the Vega system? Maya closed her book and sighed. Apparently, being the Ghost of Sol was a full-time job, whether she wanted it or not. 6 months into her accidental career as the galaxy's most unlikely military strategist, Maya had developed several theories about her situation. Theory 1, she'd been kidnapped by an elaborate reality show. Theory 2, she'd suffered a psychotic break and was hallucinating the entire thing. Theory 3, the universe was being run by a committee of cosmic sadists who found her predicament hilarious. She was leaning toward Theory 3. The Ghost of Sol strikes again, announced the news anchor on Galactic Broadcasting Network, her 3 heads nodding in perfect synchronization. The mysterious human strategist has prevented the conquest of the Altair Mining Consortium by correctly predicting that the Void Reapers would postpone their attack due to their traditional mourning period for fallen warriors. Maya turned off the holovision and stared at her reflection in the darkened screen. Somehow, In the space of half a year, she'd gone from that weird human who studies alien bathroom habits to the galaxy's most feared tactical mind. The irony was so thick she could have served it with crackers. Dr. Voss, her assistant Lieutenant Pip, poked her head into Maya's quarters. "Admiral Kronk requests your presence at the tactical briefing. Apparently, Commander Snarl has issued another challenge." Maya groaned. Snarl had become obsessed with her, sending personal messages before each attack that read like a cross between military communications and bad poetry. His latest had included the line, "Your ghostly wisdom cannot pierce the veil of Krillian fury," which Maya had to admit was pretty good for someone whose native language consisted mostly of aggressive clicking sounds. The briefing room was packed with naval officers, all of whom turned to stare at Maya with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious figures or really good sandwich shops. She'd tried explaining her methods countless times, but somehow her anthropological approach had been mythologized into something approaching supernatural insight. "The situation," Admiral Kronk began, gesturing to the holographic display, "is unprecedented. Snarl has united 17 different raider clans under his command and is planning the largest coordinated attack in galactic history." Maya studied the data, her mind automatically categorizing the information according to the cultural frameworks she'd developed over years of studying interspecies behavior. 17 clans meant 17 different cultural traditions, 17 different honor codes, 17 different ways of approaching warfare. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "The Void Reapers are hierarchical, but the Stellar Marauders are strictly egalitarian. The Crimson Fleet follows religious protocols, but the Iron Brotherhood considers spirituality a weakness. How is he keeping them unified?" "That's what we were hoping you could tell us," Commander Torres replied. Maya noticed he'd stopped openly resenting her advice somewhere around her 15th consecutive successful prediction. Maya paced in front of the display, pieces of the puzzle clicking together in her mind. "He's not trying to blend their cultures," she said slowly. "He's using their differences as strengths. The hierarchical groups handle coordination, the egalitarian ones manage logistics, the religious ones provide ideological motivation, the pragmatic ones handle practical concerns. It's brilliant." "So how do we stop him?" Kronk asked. Maya paused. For the first time since this whole mess started, she wasn't immediately sure. Snarl had learned from their previous encounters, adapted his approach, evolved his strategy. He wasn't just following traditional Krillian patterns anymore, he was thinking like her. "I need more time to analyze this," she said finally. The room fell silent. The ghost of Saul had never needed more time before. She'd always had answers, solutions, insights that seemed to come from nowhere. "How much time?" Torres asked. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "This is different. He's not just being Krillian anymore. He's being strategic." As the officers filed out of the briefing room, Maya remained staring at the display. For 6 months, she'd been analyzing Snarl's behavior through the lens of Krillian culture, predicting his moves based on traditional patterns and honor codes. But what if he'd been doing the same thing to her? What if he'd been studying human military history, learning her patterns, adapting to her methods? Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. For the first time since becoming the Ghost of Saul, she realized she might be about to meet her match. And the worst part, she was actually excited about it. Maya had always prided herself on being observant, but it took her 3 weeks of analysis to realize that Commander Snarl had been playing a game she didn't even know existed. While she'd been treating their encounters like anthropological case studies, he'd been conducting his own research project with her as the subject. "He's been studying human military history," she announced to the assembled fleet commanders, her voice carrying a mix of admiration and horror. "Not just general tactics, but specifically human approaches to asymmetric warfare. He knows how we think." Admiral Kronk's mustache drooped with concern. "Meaning?" "A wing." Meaning every victory I've handed you has been teaching him how to counter my methods, Maya replied, staring at the tactical display showing Snarl's massive fleet approaching the Terran defense grid. He's learned to think like a human anthropologist analyzing an alien military commander. The irony was so perfect it made her teeth hurt. So what's his plan? Commander Torres asked, though his expression suggested he was already afraid of the answer. Maya had spent sleepless nights analyzing Snarl's new approach, cross-referencing human military philosophy with Krillian warrior traditions. The result was terrifying in its elegance. He's going to do exactly what humans would do in his position, she said. He's going to make us think we're winning until the moment he destroys us completely. The attack on the Terran defense grid began exactly as Maya predicted, and that was the problem. Snarl's forces approached in the traditional Krillian honor formation, broadcasting ritual challenges, following ceremonial protocols. Every indicator suggested he was reverting to old patterns. It's too easy, Maya muttered, watching the tactical display from the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. He's giving us exactly what we expect. Maybe he's finally making a mistake, Admiral Kronk suggested hopefully. No, Maya said, her stomach nodding with realization. He's making us think he's making a mistake. This is what human commanders do, find weakness to draw the enemy into a trap. But knowing it was a trap and figuring out how to avoid it were two different things. Maya watched as the fleet engaged Snarl's forces according to her own tactical recommendations, and for the first time in months her predictions started falling apart. The Krillian honor formation collapsed into something entirely different, a human-inspired pincer movement that caught the defending fleet completely off guard. The ritual challenges had been cover for detailed reconnaissance. The ceremonial approach had hidden the deployment of advanced jamming technology. He's not fighting like a Krillian anymore, Maya realized aloud. He's fighting like me, like a human who studied Krillian culture and learned to use it tactically. The fleet was in full retreat within an hour, and Maya found herself in the unprecedented position of being thoroughly outmaneuvered. Dr. Voss, Admiral Kronk's voice was strained as damage reports flooded in. We need options. Maya stared at the tactical display, watching Snarl's forces pursue the fleeing fleet with methodical precision. He'd learned her methods, studied her approaches, even adopted her way of thinking about cultural patterns as tactical advantages. There was only one thing he hadn't accounted for. Get me a direct communication channel to Snarl's flagship, she said suddenly. Maya, what are you? Kronk started. He's been studying me like I studied him, Maya interrupted. But there's one thing about human anthropology he doesn't understand. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Commander Snarl in all his Krillian glory, 7 feet of armored warrior poet with eyes like black diamonds and mandibles that could probably crush a small spacecraft. The ghost of Sol finally reveals herself, Snarl said, his translated voice carrying amusement and satisfaction. I have been looking forward to this conversation. Have you? Maya asked. Because I've been thinking about something. You've learned to fight like a human, think like a human, plan like a human. But do you know what the most human thing of all is? Snarl's mandibles clicked with curiosity. Admitting when you're wrong, Maya said. And I was wrong about you, Snarl. I spent months analyzing you as a Krillian warrior following traditional patterns. But you're not traditional at all, are you? You're an innovator, an adapter, someone who takes the best from multiple cultures and synthesizes something new. Flattery will not save your fleet, Snarl replied, though his tone had shifted slightly. It's not flattery, Maya continued. It's recognition. You've been trying to become something you're not, trying to outhuman the humans by adopting our tactical approaches. But your greatest strength was never your ability to follow Krillian traditions or copy human strategies. It was your ability to create something entirely new. She paused, watching Snarl's expression change as her words hit home. Just like mine was never military genius, she continued. It was the ability to see patterns that others missed. And right now I can see that you're as tired of this game as I am. The communication channel fell silent for a long moment. When Snarl spoke again, his voice carried something Maya had never heard before: uncertainty. What are you proposing, Ghost of Saul? Maya smiled. I'm proposing we both stop trying to be something we're not. 3 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned research vessel Curiosity, watching the installation of what the Galactic Navy had officially designated as the Strategic Cultural Analysis Center, and what Maya privately called the Department of Educated Guessing. Commander Snarl, now Director Snarl of the Institute for Interspecies Tactical Studies, was addressing a mixed group of military officers and academic researchers about the importance of understanding cultural context in strategic planning. It turned out that when you stopped trying to make a warrior poet conform to traditional military hierarchies and instead let him design new approaches to conflict resolution, he was actually quite brilliant. Dr. Voss, Admiral Kronk approached with his characteristic waddle march. The Rigel VI situation has been resolved using your cultural mediation protocols. The local warrior clans have agreed to the mining rights treaty. Excellent, Maya replied. Any actual fighting involved? None whatsoever, Kronk said proudly. Though there was an impressive amount of ritual posturing and ceremonial insult trading. Maya nodded. She'd learned that sometimes the best way to prevent a war was to give potential combatants a culturally appropriate way to work out their aggression without actually killing each battle. Well, it was anthropology applied to galactic peacekeeping, and it worked far better than anyone had expected. And the press? Maya asked. Still calling you the Ghost of Saul, Kronk admitted. Though now they're describing you as a mysterious figure who appears to prevent conflicts before they begin. I think you've been upgraded from tactical genius to diplomatic miracle worker. Maya sighed. She'd accepted that her accidental reputation was never going away, but at least now she was using it for something that made sense. Instead of being the galaxy's most reluctant military strategist, she'd become its most reluctant peace negotiator. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message from her assistant. Dr. Voss, we have a situation developing in the Vega system. 2 trading corporations are disputing mineral rights, and their cultural advisors are recommending ritual combat to settle the matter. Of course they are, Maya muttered. What species are we dealing with? The Centaurian slug people and the Rigelian crystal miners. Maya paused. Wait, I actually wrote my dissertation on Centaurian slug people mating rituals. This might be the first crisis I'm actually qualified to handle. She made her way to the communication center, already mentally cataloging what she knew about slug people honor codes and crystal miner territorial disputes. It was going to be complicated, probably ridiculous, and definitely not what she'd planned to do with her life. But as she settled into her chair and began reviewing the cultural files, Maya realized something that would have shocked her 6 months ago. She was actually looking forward to it. The Ghost of Saul might have been an accidental legend, but Maya Voss had finally found her place in the galaxy. Even if that place involved explaining to heavily armed aliens why their traditional approaches to conflict resolution might need some creative interpretation. Her coffee cup, she noticed, was still empty. Some things never changed. But as she began her analysis of the Vega situation, Maya smiled. The galaxy might be vast and strange and full of beings who solved their problems by hitting each other with various implements, but at least it was never boring. And sometimes, that was enough. Dr. Voss, came Snarl's voice over the intercom. I have reviewed the Vega files. I believe this situation calls for what you humans term thinking outside the box. Outstanding, Maya replied. Let's go prevent another war through the power of cultural anthropology and educated guessing. The Ghost of Saul might have been an unintended identity, but Maya Voss had made it her own. Even if she never figured out the coffee machine.